My number was number 753. There were well over 1,000 hopefuls. I was at the time teaching cheerleading and dance camps and competitions, and it was kind of like a dare, you want to go try out, and I went with a bunch of girls, and we all taught these camps together. And I kept making it through the rounds, but when it came down to towards the end of the more final rounds, I got cut, and I started to develop my own sense of humor of how no is the beginning of a negotiation. Because I packed different outfits for this reason alone. I was determined to become a Laker girl. My father was such a huge Laker fan, we all were, but when I got that first no, I felt like they didn't even see me. I mean, I know I'm tall, however, they didn't see me. I went into my office in the ladies' room, stepped into my inner cubicle, and I quickly changed into the next outfit and wore my hair, this time in a ponytail, with a different leotard and tights. And I went out there and I went under my middle name. And I got cut again. And I started really negotiating. I went back into my office, into the ladies' room, and the third time was the charm. I went under my second initial, then my first initial, and spelled my last name slightly different. And I wore the loudest leotard, which was like the old Jane Fonda, the chevron red and white stripe, blue tights and white leg warmers, and a headband. And I made it. And that was the beginning of, you have to have humor with it, because I don't give up. When I was born almost 3 months premature, and my lungs were just a mass, and I had a broken windpipe, and the first, it was very scary for my mom and dad to want to take me home from the hospital, because they didn't think that they were afraid. And I was coined a tenacious attack hamster by the doctors, and said I was like a medical miracle, because I would faint, because anytime I'd start to cry, it was an inhale, and my lungs and my windpipe couldn't handle it. So the doctor said she comes to, though. She comes out of it only to faint again. So the whole thing was, they said, you can take her home, but just don't be afraid. She's going to be okay. The first little over 2 years of my life, I'd wake up just to cry and be knocked out again, which worked out great for my mom. She got a lot of her ironing done. My dad could go gas up the car, and just in time for me to faint again. But my sister's, who was a little over 7 years older than me, she figured out a way to teach me not to cry, because it pissed her off that all of a sudden this weirdo comes home, and it's disrupting the fact that she was an only child, and she can't play with me. So she would oftentimes sit in a rocking chair and provoke me to wake up. And right when I'd start to wake up and I'd be, she'd be making these faces, and I'd start laughing, which was exhaling. Go figure. My sister was the one by accident who taught me to not cry. I've certainly made up for it, as you know, if you've seen many years of American Idol and everything like that. But for the longest time, and when my parents would be mad and they'd scold me or God forbid, spank me, I'd be laughing, and that pissed them off more. But it was my safety in knowing that I can kind of figure things out.
I think you've demonstrated you're a real fighter on multiple fronts. And talking about that, how did you become the lead choreographer only 3 months after getting this incredible job?
Who would have ever thought that? First of all, I never fit the type, so to speak, of a cheerleader. I never planned to be a cheerleader. I mean, but the irony is I've always been a cheerleader since I was born. I've always been rooting for everyone else to do well and to tap into their best selves. I never thought of myself as a cheerleader. It was an outlet that allowed me to dance, and that's what was my heart place. So when I made it, I was the smallest one, and but the head cheerleader and choreographer, she knew me from teaching cheerleading and dance camps, and she'd pay me on the side to make up some routines, and she was dating one of the Laker players. But by the way, that was not allowed when I was the captain, not allowed. But she was engaged, so he got traded. A player got traded to Sacramento, and she moved, and I became the head choreographer and head Laker girl. And I never looked back since then, because I learned that, you know, you learn to take the lowest hanging fruit, so to speak, and the path of least resistance, and it's up to you what you make of that. And no one thought I'd be a cheerleader, and no one thought from that point that would be my real entrance into the industry.